It sounds arrogant, doesn't it? How could anybody possibly say there's only one true faith? I mean, who knows all of the religions of the world? Who actually can claim to know ultimate truth about God? Who has the moral authority to do that? And whose judgment is completely unbiased? Certainly not mine, so I'm not going to make that claim. But let me use an illustration that might help us think about the question. I'm a doctor by background, so imagine you needed a health checkup. You knew there was something wrong with you, and you go and see a number of doctors, and one after one they all tell you the same kind of message. You need to eat better, eat more vegetables, you need to exercise more, and if you're like me at least, lose a bit of weight. All well and good. But then you go to another doctor and this one says, well, all of that advice is good all the time, but your problem is bigger because your heart is about to fail you. And if you don't get surgery urgently to replace your heart, then you're going to die. And I'm a surgeon and I can do it. Now, of course, that doctor, if he's right, the others have got some truth, but they're not. They're missing the more important thing, aren't they? Everything is at stake. So the question becomes, is that doctor qualified to tell you the things that he's telling you? Now, why wouldn't we think the same way about religion? You see, some people think religion is just about ethics. It's like, do this and don't do that, and here's what a good life looks like, and try a little bit harder. And of course, when you look at religions that way, there's a lot of things that are similar, aren't they? You know, be nice, be good to people, don't commit adultery, don't murder, all that kind of stuff. But then you listen to Jesus and you realize that he's not like the other religious leaders, because he's like the doctor who's saying to you, all of that stuff about living a good life is good. And in fact, his standard for that is higher than anybody else's. He tells us to love our enemies. But then he says, actually, you know what? Your bigger problem is this, that you're one of a long line of rebels. It's not just that you don't always know what is good and you don't always do the good that you know. You don't know the God who is ultimately good. And you're alienated from him and you need to get right with him. And in fact, you need to admit that you're wrong with him and receive his forgiveness. And more than that, Jesus said he was the one, like a surgeon, who can do that. He said that he had become like a doctor to help those who were sick. That's why he hung out with people who were outcasts and people who knew that their lives were a mess. Now, the question becomes, does Jesus have the right to say those kind of things? You see, listen to one of the things he said. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Do you hear it? He doesn't say, I'm one of the ways, I'm the best way, I'm the most reliable way, the easiest way. He says, I am the way. He doesn't say, I've got some of the truth or most of the truth or more of the truth than the other guys. He says, I am the truth. He doesn't say, I can give you a better life or look at my life, it's good. He says, I am the life. In other words, Jesus is saying that when you've got him, you've got everything. You've got the whole package, the truth about God, the way to God, the life that God wants you to have. Does Jesus have the right to say it? Well, nobody could say that Jesus was a hypocrite. He lived by the standard that he taught perfectly. And he loved people beyond the kind of love that any of us have for others. But more importantly than that, he laid down the power that he had and he allowed himself to be killed because he believed he was dying for the sins of other people. And more than that, I believe, and I think it's a historical fact, that he rose again from the dead. And so this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. He said he had come from God. He knew the way to God. He'd come to open up a way for you and for me to get to God. Why don't you investigate that for yourself? I'm not telling you there's only one true faith. But I'm saying that Jesus said there's only one truth, one way, one life, and that is him. I believe he's right, and I hope that you discover that too.